Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What's in the Closet with Alex Seeger. That is me. And today, what's in the closet is, drumroll please, trend cycles. So, for those of you who may not know, I'll do a quick introduction and overview of what a trend cycle is exactly. So, for a trend cycle to begin, there needs to be a trend in the first place. So, that happens through the media, either with a celebrity sporting the style or the clothing or whatever it is, or it debuts on the fashion runway at, say, Paris Fashion Week. Furthermore, according to consciouslifeandstyle.com, a trend cycle is the process of introducing and popularizing a new trend, which happens in 5 key stages: introduction, rise, acceptance, decline, and obsolescence. So in general, a traditional trend goes through that full cycle over the course of around 20 years. So this 20-year cycle is what we've known to be tried and true for the last century or so, and there's examples of it happening all throughout history, not like the Mongols' history, but like recent history. Um, and the one that we are most familiar with is the mass revival of 2000 style clothing and nostalgia that's happening right now. However, this classic 20-year cycle that we've known for the past however long has begun to collapse under itself in the past few years, especially under the global pandemic that we just went through. So we've spent the 2020s so far enjoying the super cute 2000s clothes, but we've already started to move on from that, transitioning into the only other option that we have, because there's only so much history and time and fashion to look through, is a 2010s fashion. So these styles take inspiration from Tumblr era, Zoe Deschanel from New Girl, the indie sleaze aesthetic, all that stuff is the basis of 2010s fashion. So the only problem with that was the fact that these styles were in the mainstream less than 10 years ago. So that's a big jump from the 20-year cycle. So this is proof that we are witnessing in real time the disintegration of trend cycles that we once knew, and we are now seeing a rise of some new forms of how we view fashion. Whether this manifests in the same cyclical style that we have known so well, with trends circling and cycling back every couple of years, or if we see a completely new spectrum of fashion with people taking inspiration from all across time and trends and colors and fabrics and everything. And personally, I would love to see something like that happen, because I think the more creativity and innovation that we see in the fashion world, um, that'll put a really interesting, fresh face on the fashion industry and the way that we think about and design clothes. Um, which also brings me to the rise of personal style. So, personal style is something that obviously everyone has to varying degrees of flair and like how much effort you want to put in. But what I mean by saying that there's a rise in personal style is that people are moving away from following like the masses and the trends, like the traditional trends that we knew, and they're just creating their own take on how they want to view fashion and how they want themselves to look, and they just use whatever they want as much or as little as they want, and they don't really care how what anyone thinks of them. And again, I absolutely support that, because trends are really just a social construct, and any attempt to find individuality and uniqueness is just, it's always a good decision. You always want to be more yourself. And something that goes hand in hand with the concept of personal style and the way that it presents itself is shopping sustainably. So, kind of ironically, considering the episode topic of trend cycles and how they're fading, shopping sustainably has been trending recently in the past few years. And this popularization of finding secondhand clothing and going out thrifting feeds right into the idea of not necessarily following like a specific set of trends, just buying clothes that make you happy, that you want to wear, and you can make your own idea of what is and isn't fashionable. Which I just think is really beautiful, that we're entering this era of kind of just do whatever you want. Because who cares? Who's looking at you? Just have fun, and that's what's most important in life. But this is just, I don't know, I'm really liking this way that we are kind of trying to be environmentally conscious in the way that we use and wear our fashion, because secondhand shopping and doing all this has also become popular because of the massive rise of fast fashion that we've seen in the past couple of years. So let's transition and talk more about that, the evils of fast fashion. So fast fashion is one of the most significant causes to the collapse of the traditional trend cycle, along with the internet, because the rapid rate of production combined with the internet's ravenous appetite for always wanting more creates microtrends. Um, and microtrends are a trend that falls, like rises to popularity a lot quicker than traditional trend and then falls a lot faster. So traditional trends can last for years, like I said, the 20-year cycle, but microtrends sometimes barely even last a couple of months. Um, like you've seen this with like the swirly print, like skin tight leggings from Shein, uh, kind of like the kid core aesthetic from 2020. That was a really big phase when it was happening, and then after, it kind of just is nothing anymore. Um, which means that all the clothes that were made to fit that trend just end up in the garbage. Because websites like Shein and Fashion Nova and all these different fast fashion companies pump out hundreds, sometimes thousands of new styles every single day, creating bulk amounts of clothes that are basically disposable. They're made out of plastic. Um, and they're just trying to keep up with what's hot on the internet. They're just trying to make their money by creating what's trending. But because everything is trending so quickly and then people lose interest in it, they're just creating a bunch of clothes that people wear for 5 seconds and then throw away, which is super harmful for the environment. And these companies are super unethical to their workers, but that is a whole other episode on its own. Um, so I'll move on. So these low quality garments get just like churned out of these child labor factories. They're just really the bottom of the fashion totem pole. And it kind of shows when a trend has gotten to the bottom of the barrel is when it starts showing up on these sites, and especially like the sales section on these sites, because if it's already like worked its way through the internet and people liking it, and these websites are a little late, then they get it all, but no one's buying it. So it's a watered down, like half-assed version of the original trend. Um, and to transition again, fast fashion is a really important part of something called the trickle down effect. So you may be familiar with this concept in the context of economics, as Ronald Reagan famously spearheaded trickle down economics, where the majority of wealth goes to the top few percent and then works its way down the class ladder. So for fashion, this works really similarly. The trend starts at the top with luxury designers like debuting it on the runway, and they create it for these rich and famous people that can buy it, or honestly, a lot of the time just get it for free. And then they post the product on social media, which creates the desire for the middle class people to want to buy the product, even though it's unattainable, unrealistic, and too expensive for them to buy it. So that means for the middle class people that do buy the product, they feel superior and closer to upper class, even though they aren't the upper class, because they just spend all their money on, say, like a Supreme hoodie or Prada loafers, which cost like $1,000, $1,500. And for the rest of the people that decide to save their money, they feel left out of the loop and just have to sit back and sit in that feeling of FOMO. Um, but the reality of it is, this is all fake. This is all constructed to make people feel excluded and give people a false sense of status. So going on from this, as the style continues to be diluted as it loses popularity, or gains popularity, sorry, it becomes overdone and begins its downfall into obsolescence. So fast fashion companies like Shein, Fashion Nova, Zara, and H&M take the style and downgrade the quality and materials to make it affordable to the masses. Um, so really, the key cause of the collapse of the trend cycle is due to the fact that everything is available for the masses to purchase, to view, to consume, whatever. So this leads me to the factor that may be even more prominent than fast fashion in what we're talking about today, and that's social media. With the excessively fast takeover of TikTok on society, our attention spans got a lot lower, as we expected more information and fun to be presented to us in less and less time. So this pretty clearly explains how we lost the trend cycle so quickly, because people just got bored. with all the styles and clothes that they had in front of them, and they wanted to move on to something more interesting and new, and to create a different identity for themselves. And as everyone's familiar with, social media is a really negative space that festers in competition and making people feel left out, and just creates unrealistic expectations for what life should look like. So this makes people want to have as many clothes as possible, because if you have new clothes for every single post, then you seem, oh my god, I'm so cool. Oh my god, I'm so rich. Oh my god, I'm just like living up the life, when you aren't doing any of that. It's all just a performance. And honestly, clothes don't show that. You have to just like live your life, whatever. But this further contributes to the problem of fast fashion, because fast fashion companies, they don't take inspiration from runways. They take inspiration from TikTok and Instagram and whatever is going viral on social media. Um, so this inverse of from the norm flips the trickle down effect that I was talking about on its head. So now what's trendy is created like democratically by the people for the people, which is positive because it's people creating the trends. So it's like distancing themselves from designer brands, and they're just like picking whatever makes them feel happy. But on the very negative side, it also makes any style that people deem good enough get replicated by fast fashion companies and pumping thousands of pounds of waste into the ocean. Um, so that pretty much sums it up for what I had to say about trend cycles and fast fashion. I hope that you learned something today about the way that trends move throughout the fashion world, about the horrible environmental impacts, social impacts that fast fashion has. And yeah, I will just leave you with this. What is one trend that you would like to see come back in 2023 or 2024? Leave them in the comments below. All right, goodbye.